Well, good day. This is the middle of our journey on the way to South Africa. We've stopped off in New Jersey and we're here for about 9 days, staying with my brother and his wife and their two beautiful twins. And we're having a wonderful time so far. Just relaxing, really, just spending family time before we head across the Atlantic to the new continent, or the old continent rather, Africa. And for those of you who saw my last video and are playing along, I've had plenty of guesses about where I buried the guitar I first brought to Nassau, but nobody's guessed correctly yet. But also nobody's also got a friend to sign up to get a hint. So if you really want to play the game and get a friend to sign up, get a hint, you probably will get closer to the prize and maybe win the prize. But as it's looking now, if we go a week or so with no hints or no questions or no guesses, we'll probably have to shut the contest down, and I'll just tell you where it's buried, and we'll all just celebrate where it is. And that'll be the end of it. But I have gotten a lot of subscribers who wanted to play the game, so that's a good thing. So I did get some subscribers, but I would like somebody to guess it. I think it would be cool if somebody figured it out, and it is something you can figure out. The first hint was it is significant in our journey to South Africa, one of the reasons why we are journeying there. So that's the hint again, but on to other things. We are in between life right now, moving out of the Bahamas. Our stuff is on a container. It'll be a month-long trip. Left Monday when we left Nassau. Well, actually, we didn't leave Monday. We thought we were leaving Monday. We packed up our stuff and we rode to the airport. We had a tearful goodbye with my parents and my mom. For those of you who know her, she cried all the way back home. And just as we got to the counter, we handed the lady our itinerary, and she looked at the itinerary. She looked at us with the weirdest look on her face, and we didn't know what to make of it. And she said, "Your plane is actually leaving tomorrow." And we were like, really? That can't be. So we looked at it, and of course it was. And all of the rush of packing our stuff and packing our bags, and the rush and the emotions of leaving Nassau, we actually did a dry run of our leaving of Nassau. So we had a whole day kind of a dress rehearsal. So we went to the airport. So we called my parents back, and they came and picked us back up graciously. We went back home, and we had another day with my parents. But what was wonderful about that was we got to reflect on some things that we didn't up until that point. It was really a wonderful gift, and I wanted to just say in this short video here today, in the in-between time, to just pass on something that I learned. And that one extra day was, had a conversation with my parents at night where we talked about the distance that's going to be created. Although I do believe that geography, in technology now, geography is more and more irrelevant, but it's still a separation factor. It's still a reality that physically we're separating from friends and loved ones and family. And so we talked about the fact, though, that my parents moved to the Bahamas about 7 years ago when my grandmother had a stroke. And thank God she had no lasting damage from the stroke. The only real effect she had from the stroke was that she started painting paintings, and she's painted hundreds of paintings since then, and wonderful paintings. And so that's a good thing that came out of that. But another thing that came out of it was my parents moved back to the Bahamas to actually live with my grandmother and to make sure, not that she needed constant care to take care of her, but just to make sure that if anything like that happened in the future, somebody would be with her. And that they would not have moved back to the Bahamas if it were not for that, what we thought at the time was a bad thing. I mean, my grandmother having a stroke, we thought was a real, terrible situation, but it was quite a while ago. She's 95 now, and she told us at her 95th birthday, "I don't know why you guys are making such a big deal out of this." And we said, "Well, because it's 95 is a big year. When will we celebrate it again?" And she said, "In 5 years when I turn 100. So she's planning on living to be 100 at least. So we reflected on the fact that we've been given a gift of the last 7 years of living in the same country, going to the same church, being my father and I working together, and my being able to pick up the phone and chat. And so something that we were reflecting on the loss of being together, we started just putting things in perspective on the last day about the gift of being together, not the loss of not being together. And it really did change our perspective. And I think it was a beautiful thing to reflect on. It was a beautiful thing to think about. And we just had a moment of, my mom and dad and I, of just reflecting on how, a good thing came out of a thing that we thought was bad. And so not in any way did we think, does anybody of us think, or any of us think rather, that going to South Africa is bad. But there are some things about it that are, not interpreted positively because of the distance, but we came to the realization that there's going to be a lot of good things that we don't even know of yet that'll come out of it, and there'll be gifts and they'll be celebrated. And so all that to say that, it sounds cliche, but it's true that even out of things that, unexpectedly come into our lives as bad things that we weren't expecting, things that, maybe come into our lives as good things, like us being called to South Africa on a new mission, a new adventure for a new part of our lives, things will come out of this that we will celebrate and we will bless, and we'll be, blessed by, and others will be blessed by. So we left there because of this dry run with, a new perspective. And so I thank, just God, and I just thank, everybody involved, about the dry run. And, so it was interesting. And I think the porter and the lady at the airport were the only two people who really saw our embarrassment. Everybody else in line was just glad that we were out of the line with all the bags that we had. They were like, good, I'm glad they're gone. Now we get in there faster. And so we came back the next day. We jumped on, and such a change that my mom didn't even have to ride to the airport the next day. She stayed home. She said a tearful goodbye as we left, and, she let us go with my dad to the airport. And so that was a big perspective change, and I was proud of my mom for, having a change in perspective. And I just, felt a lot better about it. And, I love my parents dearly, and it is a sad thing to be distant from them in many ways. But at the same time, it's also, a beautiful thing to be, changing direction and going into a new adventure. But it also reminds me that what's ahead is just unknown and can bring untold blessings and untold things to celebrate. So I just want to put that out there in the world, that, put that out there to the people who watch this, that what you might think originally as a bad thing can bring amazing, wonderful things into your life. So that's this video for this week, as we live in the in-between between our lives in Nassau and our lives that will begin in South Africa when we leave here on Wednesday. Goodbye.